how would you recommend someone adjust their approach to finances when you take someone who's a low earner and they're just starting their journey, and then you take someone who's comfortable and they're like halfway through their journey, and then you actually take someone who's wealthy by most definitions, and they're at that point now where they can afford, whatever they want?
Well, I think one of the things that happens is, I think the mindset is people do this like apple cart turnover. Hey, I used to invest in my 401k and my Roth IRA, and I built up to $1 million. But oh man, now that I'm here at $1 million, I've got to do something completely different. I got to change my strategy. I got to pursue something else. And we always say, don't forget to dance with the one that brung you. The thing that got you from 0 to 100,000 and from 100,000 to $1 million and from $1 million to 10 million can be the same that continues on. You may just start adding stuff to it. I may have a really healthy, diversified portfolio across low-cost index funds, but I want to get into real estate. So maybe I go buy my first rental property, or go buy raw land, or I go buy a commercial property. It's not like I'm changing the strategy. I get to kind of add on to the strategy, but the same rules apply. I want to be disciplined. I don't want to over-lever. I don't want to get too far ahead of my skis. I don't want to take on too much risk. You just do those same sort of things, whether you're at the beginning or kind of I'm at the middle point or even at the end. It's not about changing strategy. It's about adjusting and altering strategy.
Well, I think it's a great question, but it's also more of a philosophical on money in general. I mean, one of the things, that's one of the things when we were designing financial order of operations is that you're going to have a change in your journey. Just because we could apply this to expenses too, is that, if you have a limited net worth of say under $100,000, a 1% on that $100,000 is just it's for on $10,000 it's $100, on $100,000 it's, and check my math, I'm doing public math,
$1,000,
it's $1,000. Your expenses start changing drastically because when you're under $10,000, every dollar you spend matters. When you get to $100,000, now you can go on vacation and it's okay. You can eat out, and you get to your first $1 million. Okay, now your car can be a little nicer. Well, it's kind of the same way on your tax and your investment journey as well. Is it doesn't have to change all at once, but you just see that your journey will change. That's why I'm telling you, you can start off simple, but complexity will naturally find you because as you have more and more success, at some point you're going to have to look at your estate plan. At some point you're going to have to look at yes, you're going to be maxing out. Look at 4 employer plans. How often, we've even had some content creators, they know who they are. They're going to watch this because they're friends of both of us because they've called us and gotten some advice. And then they follow up and then they never hire us on it, but they get the free advice from us. When we start talking about, hey, what's the difference between like a solo 401k and then when you graduate to a traditional 401k? But then, hey, how about when we bolt on a profit sharing plan? And then what's this thing about a cash balance plan? These are all things that are just, you don't start there, but you grow into them as you have more and more success.
And then what about balancing then risk and speculation versus capital preservation? When do you kind of slide along that scale to really look into asset protection? At what dollar amount? And then when you are in the phase of your life, maybe you're like very young, you're 18, 19, you're starting to make a little bit of money, you could maybe scrounge up an extra $200 a month. Could you just put that in a 3x leveraged ETF instead of doing something else?
There's a problem with those triple leverage.
You could do that. You could, and you could argue, hey, oh yeah, you're young and you've got plenty of time. You can be as aggressive. But I would argue one of the big things is, while you might think that might be being aggressive, what you're really doing, if you take that extra $200 you scrounge up and you're doing the 3x triple levered, instead of just buying S&P 500 inside your Roth IRA, the time that you're missing out on those dollars compounding over the next 40 or 50, 60 years can be huge. Because maybe the triple levered thing works, but because of time decay, if you don't actually catch it on momentum and catch it at the right time, you're not actually going to make any money on those. They don't work. You don't think, oh, okay, the S&P 500 makes 10% annualized per year. I'm just going to go buy a triple levered ETF and I'm going to make 30% per year.
It doesn't work that way.
The mathematics don't actually work that way. So how you approach risk can change. And don't mishear, there's nothing wrong with speculation. A lot of people think, oh, you can't you can, but it should be with a small portion of your portfolio and not at the beginning. Like when you speculate, you want to speculate with vacation money, not with grocery money. Because if you start doing with grocery money, you get yourself into a really bad spot. So I think that having riskier investments is okay, so long as you have the foundation built out and you're doing the things you're supposed to be doing on the baseline, and then you want to add in that more aggressive stuff.
And I'll even take it to life. I do think young people, I mean, when you're in your 20s, that is the time, take some risk. Because, I mean, if you fail, you're already so close to the starting line. how much are you losing, on that? There's a lot of endeavors and other things. And I think that you can, I don't want you to go crazy with it, but if you have something that you think you're world class in, I do think people, that's how we've ended up here.
Sure.
It's an oddball thing to start a podcast in 2006. It's an oddball thing to go out and start a business. So I like those things. But then I will tell you, I do like just small decisions. I'm not talking out both sides of my mouth because I say go think boldly in those terms, but I think in terms of your money, I love just index funds because it's so simple. You don't have to put a lot of effort into it. I do believe in this concept of law of accelerating returns. As technology is accelerating faster and faster, and as long as we don't create the robots that kill us, we're going to make more and more money. So if you can start investing, you don't have to try to pick the winners. You just buy the market in general, because the expansion is naturally going to create success and opportunity. But I do think as you get older, I'm unfortunately the oldest person in the room. I'm now over the 45 age that I talk about in a lot of our content, is that I think it's okay to be completely debt free post 45, because you just don't have the multiplier effect on your money like you did when you're in your 20s. And also if you've won the game, meaning you have enough money that you could do what you want when you want, why run up the scoreboard? Why not dial down some of the risk? Because if you're not missing out. So I paid off my mortgage, so it doesn't mean I'm debt free.
Paid off a 2.75% mortgage.
2.5%.
Last 2.5%.
It was down to $42,000.
Last week, yeah.
It was down to $42,000. Because my monthly payment. Look, at the beginning of the year, I was at like $100,000, but literally my monthly payment was knocking this thing down. It only said I saved a few months because the monthly payment was just crushing it. And the hassle factor. Plus, you don't know, our audience, I get a lot of pressure going, how do you still have a mortgage? I was like, you're right. What am I doing? The hassle factor, at some point, if you do the multiplication on 2.5% on $40,000, it was the squeeze of the fruit just wasn't worth it.
I did that with my car.
Yeah,
I had a 3% interest rate, a 3.3% interest rate on the Tesla. And it got down to a point where just even filing that like little tax interest, it just wasn't even worth it. I just paid it off.
It's so annoying. But I do think early on in the journey, 20s, 30s, 40s, you don't have to focus on capital preservation. I don't think you have to have like a super conservative portfolio if you've done the right things, right? If you have an emergency fund that can cover 3 to 6 months of your living expenses, if something were to happen in your work life where you didn't have an income coming in, I think it's okay to be a lot more aggressive with your portfolio. You can have a super heavy equity portfolio, but once it gets to a critical mass, once it's $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million portfolio, it is a lot less about how much money you make, and it's more about how much you get to keep over the long term. And I think that's where the shift begins to happen.
Life insurance is one of those things that makes sense for a lot of people out there, but most people just put it off because it feels complicated, expensive, or time-consuming, but it doesn't have to be, thanks to our sponsor, Fabric.
Fabric by Gerber Life is term life insurance that you can get done today. It's made for busy parents like you. It's all online. It's on your schedule, right from your couch. You could be covered in under 10 minutes with no health exam required.
If you have kids, and especially if you're young and healthy, the time to lock in a low rate is now. And even if you have life insurance through your employer, it may not offer you enough protection for your family, and it usually does not follow you if you leave your job. Fabric offers flexible, high-quality policies that fit your family and your budget, including options like $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day.
Fabric is partnered with Gerber Life, trusted by millions of families for over 50 years. There's no risk, and they even have a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can cancel at any time. Fabric also has free digital wills, tools to invest in your kid's future, and more, all right from your phone.
Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to protect their family. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/ICHclips.
Again, that's meetfabric.com/ICHclips. MEET fabric.com/ICHclips. The link is also down below in the description. Enjoy.